I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. That's John 15:5. For the past 14 years, I've lived in Africa, first in Malawi and then in Rwanda. And I have had the opportunity to be a branch there. Malawi is a small country surrounded by Mozambique, while Rwanda is an even smaller country surrounded by the Democratic Republic of Congo. Malawi is about the size of the state of Pennsylvania, except long and narrow. It's known as the warm heart of Africa. And while I was there, it was listed as one of the 4 poorest nations in the world. When you get down to that low on the list, it doesn't matter where you rank, it's deeply poor. And much of that was made worse by HIV and AIDS. And so there were orphans everywhere. Rwanda is a country of about the size of the state of Maryland, but with twice the population. Maryland has a population of about 6 million, Rwanda about 12 million. And the thing that Rwanda is most known for was the genocide of 1994. And so it's in those two contexts that I've done ministry. Now in Malawi, it is a relatively flat country, although there are some hills. This is the warm heart of Africa, but it is deeply embedded in poverty. And so you have many households that are thatched roofs and headed by orphans themselves who care for their brothers and sisters. There are more children around than you can count because the older generation has died off. When I was there in the mid, from about 2008 to about 2011, about 26% of the population that had been tested was HIV positive. So a lot of the work that we did in the church was development work, and particularly dealing with HIV and AIDS and orphans work. That was the work of the Central Church Africa Presbyterian. And so what I was doing was training pastors to do some of this. And I had the opportunity of working with a number of different pastors in a variety of different capacities to build these kinds of programs and capabilities for them to be able to better equip their churches. I taught at the Theological College for a short time, but I worked mostly with pastors in the area, equipping them. Now, I also worked with partnership. One of the issues in a poor nation is always clean, fresh water. And that was certainly the case here. Many people walk for miles with water on their heads, carrying the water that's needed by the family. And so we worked in partnership, developing partnerships with Pittsburgh Presbytery and with other countries, as well as other presbyteries, to help to meet some of those needs. And you see in this slide, 2 projects where 2 different wells were dedicated, which meant that the people had access to clean and safe water, which was so very important. So I was able to help to facilitate some of these partner-to-partner relationships that allowed the people to grow. When I went to Rwanda, the story was completely different, and the ministry was significantly different. This is a country that is rebuilding after genocide. Now, Malawi is known as the warm heart of Africa. Rwanda is known as the land of 1,000 hills, and Pittsburghers would feel very welcome there because of all of the hills. It was in that setting that the genocide of 1994 happened. And if you're not familiar with it, it was the Hutus who attacked the Tutsis, or attacked some moderate Hutus as well. In 100 days, almost 1 million people were killed, not by bombs, not even by guns, but rather by machetes and clubs wielded by their neighbors, instigated by the government and encouraged by the government. And so the country was devastated. It has been in the process of rebuilding, and there was a lot of rebuilding to do. This is one of the pastors. When the genocide ended in the Presbyterian Church alone, there were only 16 pastors left out of 70 pastors who had existed before the genocide. Some of them had been killed in the genocide, some of them had fled for safety, and some of them were perpetrators who, when the genocide ended, fled. This particular pastor lost all of his family. He's holding up the pictures of all of his family, wife and 7 children who were killed during the genocide, and he alone survived. He was injured, but he survived. So the country was devastated, and the church was either silent or complicit. And so there's great healing that has had to happen, trust to be rebuilt. Some would say, how can you come back? And it's the church that has been at the center of this. The government has rebuilt the city. Rwanda is one of the cleanest and most modern countries in all of Africa. The buildings could be rebuilt, but the relationships are what are struggles. Now I want to introduce you to one of my heroes of the faith. This is Dr. Elise Musa Makwele, who, when the genocide ended, was in Belgium studying, and he was invited to come back and start again theological training, because not only were the Presbyterians without pastors, the Lutherans, the Baptists, the Methodists, all of the major denominations were without pastors. And so they started a cooperative institution where there would be several people, different denominations trained together. In that first cohort, Dr. Musa Makwele was the vice chancellor for this program. And as he introduced it, one of the students stood up and said, "Vice Chancellor, what are you going to teach us that's different?" Because when genocide erupted, 95% of the population of Rwanda would say they were Christians. And yet the genocide took place. What are you going to show us that's different? And he said, we will work together on a ministry of reconciliation, a theology of reconciliation that is contextual. And so that's what I have been a part of for the last 9 years. This is the Protestant Institute now. Dr. Elise has been instrumental in rebuilding that as well. This is our classroom building and a multi-purpose hall and a wonderful state-of-the-art library. But the buildings, again, don't tell the story. The story is in the lives of the people as we work at a ministry teaching a theology of reconciliation. And the fruit of our labor are the students that we work with, the people who will go out to serve in congregations. And so we've trained them in reconciliation, but it's reconciliation melded with development, and part of that development is peace studies. Each of these students must take courses in peace building and conflict resolution, as well as in theology. And they have the opportunity to take development courses as well. The institution has a school of theology, a school of education, and a school of development studies with an emphasis in peace building. Let me just tell one story, and I think you'll capture how this happens. This is Pastor Samuel, who finished the program shortly after I arrived and went out to a small parish, a very poor parish, as you might be able to see. And when he got there, he discovered that in that church building, there were two sides of pews, one where the Hutu sat, the other where the Tutsi survivors sat. They never crossed the center line. And he began to build a ministry of reconciliation, starting with Bible studies, with preaching and teaching, but it was a very poor area. And so he began some development projects. And the first was to go to the Presbyterian and say, I need a loan for solar panels. And they said, what, you cannot live without electricity? He said, no, listen to my plan. And he mapped it out for them, and they gave him a loan. And his plan was this. They would start a little kiosk where they would shave hair and recharge cell phones. Extremely important in a rural area. But in order to work in that kiosk and benefit from it, Hutu had to work with Tutsi. And together, they would build the business. Your business would depend on working with someone who was your enemy. Now, there had been a lot of training go into this, a lot of talk and conversation. That went well. They quickly paid back the loan. They then went into beekeeping and did the same thing. Perpetrator and survivor working together. They did a little pig project. And probably the one that was dearest to my heart was the basket weaving. The women would sit together and weave baskets. And the headquarters of the EPR helped them find a market for their baskets. But remember, these are survivors and these are wives of perpetrators who have learned to work together and are independent. The end of this story, it's not quite over yet, but the latest story is that church building I showed you no longer exists. They bought land a little closer to the village. They built a brand new church, and it came all from the people themselves, no outside support. They were able to raise the funds because their income had been raised. Their numbers have grown, and they are known as a church of reconciliation. That's the story of how we're training our pastors. I've taught more than 500 pastors and they have touched the lives of literally thousands of people and made a difference. I believe I've been a branch. I praise God for that opportunity, but the fruits come from the vine itself, from Jesus. And we are watching the church grow. I show this picture last. It's one of my favorites. It's taken at Victoria Falls, and it shows the hope of bridging gaps of reconciliation. I thank you for recognizing this work, and thank you for offering your support as we work together in faith.